Hi, my name's Holly Campbell, and I had ME/CFS for 12 years. I got ill really suddenly over about 2 weeks. There wasn't a virus or a bug beforehand, and I was bedbound for several years. I was a full-time wheelchair user with a lot of support for years after that. And then I went through cycles of slow recovery followed by relapse and repeat for years and years. And eventually I made gentle progress to be fully recovered about 3 years ago. So from the ages of 20 to 32, I had the ME/CFS, and I'm now 35. And I'm going to talk to you today about 3 things that helped me in my recovery. The first is pacing. And I think we talk a lot about energy management and a lot about pacing. It was really key for me because actually I couldn't heal whilst I was in cycles of boom and bust. When I was overdoing it and constantly trying to catch up, it was really difficult at first because it felt like accepting that my world had grown really, really small and that I was only able to do very little. But actually, once I made my peace with it and became more comfortable with it, actually it became empowering, and it helped me to have more energy, and it created the stability that allowed my body to heal. I think what we don't talk about with pacing is actually it's all about our decision making. So it's about whether we decide to do or not do something and to rest or not rest. And therefore it's really heavily influenced by our decision making, which in turn is influenced by grief or by impulsive decision making, impulsive thoughts, and other things that impact the way that we behave and choose to do or not do things. So that was a really, really big thing for me. And that's something that I actually still do even now. And I think everyone should be doing. I think even people without chronic illness don't recognise that our well-being and our energy is finite. And it's something that we should all be aware of and not taking for granted. And I do think people without chronic illness can take it for granted. The second thing that really helped me, and that is meditation and mindfulness. I think meditation gets a really bad rep because we think that when we start meditating, we're going to find ourselves super zen, looking at a sunset in a lotus position, a complete peace with an empty mind. And I think that unfortunately puts a lot of people off. Whereas actually meditation and mindfulness, it's a completely different way of using your mind. And it takes time. That does take time to use your brain differently and to use your mind differently. That training takes time and practice, unfortunately. So what I did was to start really, really small, even just 30 seconds, and trying to do that a few times a day and building up. I found mindfulness a much easier way to do that because you can do that without even thinking. So when you're washing your hands, thinking about the warm water and the scent of the soap and what have you, the noise of the water, that was something I could do with the energy that I had. I didn't need to do anything extra or try and kind of find time to sit in a lotus position. But actually you don't need to be sat up to be meditating. You can be, I would actually recommend that you're lying flat. As a meditation teacher now, it is something that I recommend where you actually lie supported, with your body supported, so you don't have to hold tension anywhere in your body. Lots of conventional meditation is about keeping your spine straight and staying alert, but actually it can be adapted to fit for people with chronic illness. And that was a really important learning for me. But it also meant as I got better at meditating and I could do it for longer, firstly that I could do guided meditations and progressive relaxations that were like 30 minutes or 60 minutes long, and that could replace daytime naps, actually, because it was so hard not to sleep in the day and I was trying to correct my sleep hygiene and try and just sleep at night. And actually doing progressive relaxation in the day instead of sleeping was really, really beneficial for me. And it also meant that my rest was actually restful. It's really good for your nervous system. You might know a bit more about that as well. So it was really beneficial for that. But also, I find that using meditation, using mindfulness meant that I was a lot better at managing kind of intrusive thoughts, at being aware and able to manage my emotions. And that's kind of work around the observing self. If you read a little bit up on that can be really helpful too. The third thing that really made a difference for me, and I think this will differ in terms of it being relatable for anyone watching this, in that we each have something that impacts how or why we got unwell in the first place. And for me, it was trauma. And this third thing for me was actually processing that trauma. And that was a long journey for me. I did lots of different interventions. So although I think talking therapy and just person-centered counselling has its place, doing trauma processing like EMDR, the rewind technique, and then learning actual coping skills and how to look after myself through things like DBT, they were all really, really important for me. And I know now a bit more about the science behind it and about how unprocessed trauma really weighs really heavily on the nervous system, and just processing all of the stuff I was carrying around made my skeleton feel lighter, made me feel lighter, and helped me be better able to heal. So that was a really big journey for me. For others, this part of the journey, or what's weighing your nervous system down, might be gut issues, it might be being around mold and that sort of thing. So there's lots of different elements that can be looked at. That's just a kind of toe in the ocean, as it were. But those are the three things, and these those three things exist in a kind of context of a wider kind of big effort for me to focus on my health and prioritizing my health. Even the simple things like making sure I was eating stuff that was nourishing my body, but also not neglecting the stuff that was delicious and nourished my soul, if you like. So having a balance of those things, really prioritizing my sleep. I think the simple things can be really overlooked, but they're actually really important for creating that environment where our body can heal. So these three things are in that kind of wider context. I also wanted to just say, 2 tips from me if you are also trying to work on your health and try and make progress, as of course you are. Of course anyone would be in this position. And the first is to take your grief seriously. So I might get a bit emotional talking about this, because actually one of the really cruel things about ME/CFS is that it doesn't just take your energy, but it takes your identity. If you're an artist, you can't hold a brush. If you're an athlete like I was, you can't do any of the things, any of your athletics. For me, it was triathlon. If you're a hard worker, you can't do your work. If you help people, you can't get out of bed. And I think that's a real loss that we can be gaslit into not taking seriously. So I would really recommend professional emotional support where it's available to you, either through your healthcare provider, through a charity, anything that's kind of available, or formally creating a sort of support network. And that can be things like helplines, that can be things like posting and engaging on kind of healthy environments and social media, kind of online communities. Don't underestimate the benefit of online friendships. I have a friendship where I just send memes. We just share memes, and it doesn't have to be anything kind of conversational. I don't have to say anything. It takes no effort, but it's just sharing that thing that will make me laugh, or something that I'll resonate with, that can actually really make a difference when you're coping with these massive challenges of managing a chronic illness. And my second and final tip would be to learn about self-compassion. Everyone I know with ME/CFS and more widely with fibro and on COVID tend to be kind of type A personalities, high achievers, perfectionists, and this type of person tends to be really, really self-judgmental and self-critical. And the research is now showing that actually the impact of having a tiny voice in your head constantly criticizing you, constantly belittling you, putting you down, is actually just as damaging to your self-esteem as having another person say it. So actually investing that time and that thought in learning to be kind and compassionate, changing that voice to be reassuring and validating and understanding, can have a huge impact without your health changing at all. You know, you go from having that horrible critical inner voice to having someone that's on your team, you know, to being on your own side and having your own back, can make a hell of a difference. And I think it actually really helps, again, create a positive environment for your body to heal. So that's all I've got time for in this short video. I hope it's been helpful. I'm around for more conversations. I'll always have time to talk more. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I really wish you health and recovery, and at the very least, a low symptom and a high spoon day. Take care.